He's referred to as the greatest of all time by many for a number of reasons. 14 All-Star appearances, 3 All-Star MVPs, 5 regular season MVPs, and of course 6 championship rings. Michael Jordan definitely had an NBA career unlike any other, but Jordan also had a temper too, and when someone would trash talk to him, he would embark on a one-man mission to absolutely destroy them. Today, let's take a look at how Jordan wasn't just the GOAT at making buckets, but also at making his opponents' lives miserable. It wasn't always professional basketball players who felt the wrath of MJ after talking trash. Sometimes he would go toe-to-toe with players much younger than him. In fact, one time he even mentally battled a high school student who tried to talk some smack. Back in 2006, OJ Mayo was one of the best high school players alive. He was on his way to the NBA and had more than a little confidence. He was visiting Jordan's summer camp that year and wasn't intimidated by his airness. So, in a moment of true unchecked bravado, Mayo told a 43-year-old Jordan,
"You can't guard me, you can't do this."
Jordan didn't take too kindly to that, even though he had been retired for a few years at that point, and Mayo was less than half his age. Jordan was adamant about teaching him a lesson, so he looked OJ dead in the eyes and said, "You may be the best high school player, but I'm the best player in the world." Following that, Mayo never pulled ahead of Jordan and didn't win a single game against him. It didn't matter that Mayo was so young, and it didn't matter that it was just a fun game among a bunch of campers. Michael Jordan was not going to let anyone tell him he couldn't guard. That was a pretty confident move from Mayo and from Jordan, but Michael took confidence to the next level during one famous free throw. Years before he retired, Jordan was the biggest name in the NBA. There was a time when it felt like everything he touched turned to gold. In fact, he led the league in scoring for 7 years in a row. In 1991, MJ was putting up 31.5 points per game and was landing 85% of his free throws. One night, he was facing off against Dikembe Mutombo and the Denver Nuggets. The Bulls were well ahead of the Nuggets, and it looked like victory was within grasp, so Jordan was feeling pretty good and, yes, definitely very confident. Both sides were talking a bit of smack at that point in the game, especially as Jordan approached the free throw line to put up his shots. Dikembe, who wasn't too happy with the state of his team, said a thing or two. Instead of simply taking his shots to rub it in Mutombo's face, Michael Jordan looked at him and said, "This one's for you," before actually closing his eyes and then sinking his second free throw attempt blind. Jordan didn't just want to rub it in Dikembe's face, he wanted to embarrass him, and that is exactly what he did because people are still talking about this blind free throw years later as a testament to how impressive and really how petty Jordan could be. But Jordan had more than one way of embarrassing his opponents on the court. Watch how Michael Jordan literally counted how many points he had to get deep into his opponent's head. During his time with the Miami Heat, Steve Smith wasn't afraid of getting in other players' ears and intimidating them. No big deal though, right? This has been done since the beginning of the NBA. Well, during one particular game, Smith learned the hard way that Jordan isn't the sort of bear that you want to poke. Years after retiring, Smith told the story of an interesting, sometimes confusing form of trash talk he experienced from Jordan. After Smith said some words to Jordan during a game, he noticed that MJ was counting backwards after every shot. He started with 38, then went down to 36, 34, 32, and so on. Smith soon noticed that Jordan was counting backwards, going down from 40 points to 0, and sure enough, he earned every single one of those points as well as the win. Imagine how demoralizing that is. Not only do you lose, but you lose to someone that is so confident that he is literally counting down to your defeat. Ouch. Smith said that it wasn't the only time that he and Jordan had words, and throughout their 19 matches against each other, MJ averaged a strong 28.1 points per game. He obviously wanted to make a point against Smith and played his heart out every time the two met. You would think that sort of driven passion would wind down a bit as Jordan neared his second retirement, but this Vancouver Grizzlies star would quickly tell you that you were wrong. In 1995, the at the time Vancouver Grizzlies were the new kids in town, and they had a lot to prove to the rest of the NBA. They had a lot of confidence, sure, but they didn't have a ton of wins. In fact, when they faced off against Michael Jordan and the Bulls, they had a pretty weak 2-12 record. Surprisingly, during this game, Vancouver was up in the fourth quarter, and it looked like they might actually secure a shocking win. So you can't blame Grizzlies star Derek Martin for talking that talk and feeling good about his team's chances. After extending the team's lead, he ran by the Bulls bench saying,
"Told you we're gonna whoop your ass tonight."
Big mistake, Derek. Jordan heard the young player's words and he subbed into the game immediately. The man was on a mission and he quickly got to work. "Little man, I told you not to trash talk me," Jordan shouted before going off and scoring 19 of his 29 points in the final 6 minutes. And guess what? Bulls won, 94-88, and Martin quietly exited the court, humbled by the king of the game. That was the last time he trash-talked Jordan. At that point, most players in the NBA knew that messing with Jordan was a quick way to carry an L, but clearly this next international player didn't get that memo. Michael Jordan loves a lot of things: basketball, talking trash, and golf, and one day during the 1992 Olympics, he got to combine all three. On his podcast, Charles Barkley relayed the story of how Jordan put a hurting on a Puerto Rican athlete who decided to make his opinion known to the media ahead of a big match against Team USA.
Me, him, Chuck Daly, and David Robinson go play golf one morning. We're playing Puerto Rico that afternoon. And so Chuck says, "Hey, guys, we played 18. Let's go." Michael said, "I'm gonna play another 18. Chuck said, "We got a game tonight." He says, "I'll be good." So we get to the game. This is how crazy Michael is. We get to the game. "Charles, you got this guy. Scotty, you got this guy. Michael, you got this guy." Michael said, "No, I got the point guard." He says, "What?" He says, "I got the point guard." He said, "You don't want to guard the two guard?" Michael's kind of leaning down. Michael looked and said, "I said I got the point guard."
Even though Jordan only scored 4 points during that game, he stuck to his opponent like Velcro and helped Team USA to a huge 38-point win. Partly powered by MJ's 14.9 points per game, the Americans also went on to win Olympic gold as well, which was the ultimate revenge. After hours in the sun playing 36 holes of golf, Jordan was still ready to silence a young up-and-comer who wanted to run his mouth. The legend around Jordan has grown, and some people forget that, damn, he was brutal at times. From talking trash to scoring points to toying with his opponents, Jordan did not let anyone off the hook when they tried to get under his skin.